Sure.
All right. So, hello, Peter. How are you?
I'm doing well, Nikki. How are you doing? I'm waking up a little bit. It's really difficult for me this morning. It's 10. I shouldn't complain.
Oops,
But
it
for
is
some
cool.
reason,
Sorry.
and what time is it over there?
I
You're
should have
8 hours ahead?
I should have brought you some breakfast to spoil you a little bit, just to start our interview with a nice breakfast. While you're having your breakfast, I'm gonna have my whiskey, and we could talk about it because I'm in London at the moment.
Let's see, a typical London breakfast would be toast with beans and tomatoes,
Yes, and sausages, and yeah, pudding.
sausages.
Mhm.
What's a typical Greek breakfast?
So we do have a lot of fruits, of course, yogurt, Greek yogurt,
Nice.
with honey, with a lot of dried fruits. We have eggs. We have a typical, Greek. Whatever we have in our garden, we put it on the table and we eat it.
I'm down with that. I could totally get used to a Greek breakfast. I've never been to Greece. My wife's been to Greece,
Oh my God.
and I
That's,
would love to go. Where would you recommend that I go?
well, everywhere is good. Everywhere is amazing, but I'm from Crete. So the first thing I will suggest is to go to Crete. Is the
Okay.
southern part in Greece. It's the biggest island. And if you have enough time with your wife, you could have an amazing road trip. You take your car and you can roll around all the island. It's amazing, especially the
Nice.
south part. Yeah, the beaches are amazing. I can give you some proposals after our interview, don't worry.
Yes. Don't forget.
Yeah, no worries. So we have another lifestyle insider with Peter, and thank you very much for doing this. How are
Of
the
course.
things in California at the moment? Where are you at?
Things are good. They have, depending on the situation, depending on the amount of cases that are happening, things will open and close, or masks will be required indoors and then not. Right now, I believe masks are required indoors for the time being, but it goes in and out. We're used to it.
Yeah,
San Francisco was the first city in the United States to lock down after COVID really started to become everywhere. And so by now I'm used to it. I mean, I prefer obviously to not wear a mask
yeah,
because it's a little cumbersome,
yeah.
but you get used to it. Surprisingly, you learn to breathe in it and then you don't really think about it anymore. So if I have to put on a mask again, no big deal. It's for the benefit of everybody.
It's a habit nowadays.
Yeah.
So, do you think are we ready to talk about the post-COVID era or not yet?
Oh man, that's a really good question. Every time I think COVID is on its way out, it comes back.
Oh my God.
It's almost like a sore throat that goes away and then it comes back.
Yeah. I know.
It's like a bum leg that you can never quite shake off. I don't know. I think there's still a lot of changes happening. I think people are ready for it to be over for sure, but I don't know if it's quite over yet. It's never too early to speculate. You can always speculate, but I don't know how things will be when COVID finally goes away. Good question. I don't know. What do you think?
Well, I would like to see a light on the tunnel to see the positive way that we are getting into the end of it. But I'm
Yeah.
not sure yet because I don't know if it's a habit, so that's why I feel more positive, or it's in literally at the end. So I don't know what is because here in London we don't wear any more masks.
Okay.
Oh yeah, things getting better, but we'll see. Hopefully, either we're gonna get used to it and we're gonna live with that, and we just forget it. But it's still here somewhere around, so we have to be cautious. Otherwise,
Yeah.
it is what it is, and we have to survive. So, what else can we do?
You know, to your point about being positive, I think if anything, people are tired of being negative and they're trying to be positive. And I think that comes through in the way people dress. So one thing I've noticed is people have started to, when they go outside, they're starting to wear things that make them happy. And it's everything from suits to ties to robes. I mean, the people that do go out, they're going out
Yeah.
with some purpose.
For good.
And it can be some wacky things, which I'm celebrating. I think it's great. It could be things that they haven't worn in a while, like a nice black dress.
Oh, yeah.
Or it can be a nice hat, even though it's not even sunny outside or rainy. It's great. And I think people are just trying to make the most of a bad situation by doing the one thing that they can control, and that is how they look. I'm seeing that more and more often.
So you do think that there's gonna be a change into fashion, or you do face some differences from the first lockdown since now, in terms of their behavior and how do they dress? More colorful or more exaggerate because they have missed that? What do you think, especially into menswear?
Well, for my own particular environment, which is in construction, nothing has really changed.
Yeah.
I haven't worked in an office in a long time, but the people that I have seen walk around, for a while, no one was walking around.
Okay.
And before, people would walk around in whatever they had that didn't stink. You know, they would wear sweats, they would wear old t-shirts, which could have stunk, I don't know, but they would just wear whatever. Whereas now I'm noticing people are putting a little bit more effort into it. It doesn't mean that they're not as comfortable. I think they're choosing things that they are comfortable in.
Okay.
And so I've noticed people just putting more effort into how they look recently. The people that are going out are putting a little thought into it. Maybe not to my taste, which is totally fine, but it's enjoyable to see because you can tell that they really do enjoy, they feel good in what they have on. And I think that I'd like to hope that will continue on, but I'm not sure. We'll see.
This is a good consequence of the COVID, what brought us that we didn't have in our lives. We didn't appreciate what we wear. We didn't appreciate when we went going out. So if it's a change, I would accept this change. I like that. And
yeah, I think most people, oh, go ahead.
Sorry, complete. Yeah, please.
No, I was just thinking that most people have plenty of clothes in their closet anyway.
Yeah.
And now that our opportunities to go out are less, when we do go out, we want to wear the stuff that we really, really like. And so I'm seeing that more often, people, and you could tell by their body language and by their facial expression that they're loving what they have on, because it's finally a chance to wear something in their closet that has been gathering dust for months, and they're finally able to bring it out into the light. And I think that's great.
Yeah, and it's not the pajamas they used to wear. So
right, yeah.
The question was, are you wearing the Zoom so-called look at the moment? Do you wear shorts underneath?
I'm not wearing shorts, actually. I am wearing easy pants, which have been around for a number of years.
Okay.
But obviously they gained a lot of traction and popularity when COVID happened. They look just like regular pants.
Okay.
Regular dress pants, I should say. So they're in a really nice, I can show you.
Yes, please.
It's in a really nice, I don't know if it's going to look weird because the camera's going to face my crotch, but it's in a really nice cotton linen.
Okay. All right.
So it's a really nice cotton linen.
Wow.
And as you can see, I'm not wearing a belt because I don't feel like wearing a belt inside, but on the inside is a drawstring.
So it's like you wear a belt.
And they're elasticized, which is really good, especially if you're sitting down in front of a camera all day.
Oh my God.
I'm standing. I feel more comfortable when I stand. But for people who sit down, a little bit more comfort, a little bit more looseness. I think silhouettes have been heading that way for a long time. Mm-hmm. I would say for the past 10 years. Of course, women are always the first to adopt it, and they look great. Okay. Guys, fashion moves a little more glacially.
Yeah.
But I'm seeing it more and more often. Guys are starting to warm to larger silhouettes, not necessarily oversized, but just a little more relaxed. And I think that also allows them to feel a little more comfortable.
Yeah.
But no, I'm not wearing the Zoom outfit with shorts.
Okay, good to know. Good to know. Yeah, so, Peter, I would like you to describe us your personal style, please.
Okay. I honestly don't know how to describe it, except that I like to play with a bunch of different styles. I like too many styles to really say that I'm one particular style, but I will say maybe the past year or two, okay, I've been experimenting with more 70s and 90s styles. And for me, it's more nostalgic. Mm-hmm. I grew up during that period. I was born in the 70s. I graduated high school in the 90s. So for me, it has a sense of familiarity, which I really enjoy.
Yeah, but don't
I don't know if I'm trying to hold on to my youth by doing this, possibly. But I also enjoy a little bit more of a looser fit for several reasons. One, I think it's a little more flattering for most people. And then I feel a little bit more comfortable in it. Women have been doing that for the past several years, for a long time now. Guys' styles have been moving a little slower.
Yeah, that's true.
Guys in general change their styles a little more glacially than women do, which is fine. I think on the one hand, one of the things that has been happening maybe over the past 10 years mm-hmm. is that, and it could be because of the advent of the internet, where you can just click and you can find a style that really resonates with you and you can easily adopt it. You can find places that sell it. There have been more of a mix of styles that are current. So for example, when I was growing up, when I graduated high school in the 90s, there was a very particular look. Whereas now you can easily find a slimmer look, or you can find a more full silhouette, or you can find small collars, big collars. You can find a wide range of styles, not just for inspiration, but also where to buy it. Yeah. So on the one hand, I think it's good because not everyone feels like wearing the same thing all the time, mm-hmm. or whatever is currently in style may not fit them well, or it may not resonate with them. But on the other hand, it's kind of a bummer because that kind of leaves anything open, anything goes, which I'm willing to, personally speaking, I'm willing to allow that, because I'd rather have anything goes to a certain extent. I'd rather have more variety, exactly, than a conceived idea of propriety, which has been the case for a very long time, especially in clothing. When clothing comes to it's a very personal thing. So I'm glad that it's becoming a little more accepted for people to choose whatever style they personally are into.
I agree. So have you been into an era that you don't want to remember anymore and you say, oh my God, I don't want to see these pictures. I hate my style back then. Please burn them all. I don't want to see them again.
Me personally, or in general?
No, you.
Me personally, oh man.
We're always like.
Yeah, there was, I like to experiment. So there's times where I look back and I'm like, yeah, that was bad choice. There is one, and I'm sure it's floating on the internet somewhere. There was one where it was a linen suit, which in and of itself is not a bad thing, but it was a 3-piece linen suit, which always stands out a bit. But it was the jacket was kind of a safari jacket. It had 4 patch and buttoned, flapped pockets. It was a little much.
Okay.
It was almost costumey, which, and looking back, I wore it once and I decided that's not for me.
Well, it doesn't sound that bad, but if you say so, I mean, I couldn't.
But you haven't seen it. If you see it, then you'll be like, oh yeah, probably not a good idea. And there's a few of those out there.
We all have our bad moments, so it's all right.
Yeah, which I think is okay. I guess that happens if you're going to post out there. There's bound to be some hits and misses.
Yeah, I'm gonna definitely search it after our interview. Definitely want to find it, even though I cannot imagine you like being not well dressed. But anyway, so let's go to your multitasking point of view, because you're a multitasker, and it seems like being a multitasker in your case, it's feasible. But what brought a guy from a different kind of industry, like you're working construction industry, right?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
What brought you into menswear, like the collaboration you're doing now with Plaza Uomo, and you're also an author? What brought you to get involved that much with the menswear and the fashion?
It's a funny story because it's only funny insofar as where I am now, I would have never guessed.
Yeah.
But it does make sense when you couch it in how I was raised. I was raised wearing suits to religious services, and I went to religious services 3 times a week. I did a ministry once or twice a week. So I was always in coat and tie. So for me, dressing in coat and tie became second nature. I never felt out of place.
Yeah.
Styles, changed over time. I should show you this really cool picture. It's very nostalgic. There's this picture that I have in San Diego.
Oh, wow.
And it was at a big convention in Jack Murphy Stadium. So there's thousands of people. Everyone dresses up.
Oh my God.
And I'm wearing, it's very 80s. It's fantastic. I'm wearing a silk tweed jacket with a gray striped shirt and white contrast collar and a skinny tie.
Oh,
I may have been maybe 10 years old, maybe 12.
Okay.
But it's very dated. It's great. It's fantastic. But I'm used to doing that.
Yeah.
So, but at the same time, I didn't walk around, I didn't wake up like that. I woke up with, just regular clothes. I went to school in regular clothes. In Southern California, I was into skating, so I wore that. Okay. And then I moved to New York for a short while, so I kind of got into the whole khakis look in the 90s, very J. Crew, very Banana Republic, very Northeast, which I do really like. And then I moved back to California and did a bunch of different jobs. I worked in tech. I worked in a company that did music software, did a little bit of stuff for Google and YouTube. And then I finally got into construction. Yeah. And that was my daily outfit, was tan overalls or jeans and a work shirt. Yeah. But still wearing dress clothes when the situation called for it. So for meetings, again, religious meetings, or if I was just going out, I would dress up, not in a tie, but maybe a nice suit and turtleneck. Yeah. I'm very much into, and this is just me personally, I'm very much into dressing for the environment that I find myself in. Maybe a little nicer than I should, but not overly so. Like I wouldn't go to a tux. I wouldn't wear a tux except to an opera. Yeah. Yeah. Or to a ballet show. I wouldn't wear it just to go out to dinner. People do, and I think that's fine. Okay. But me personally, depending on the situation, I'll dress up or down. Yeah. And so somebody asked me to start posting on Instagram. Yeah. And I started, and it just kind of went from there. I started writing for Style Forum. I would go out to Italy for Pitti, and I would take photographs and write for them. And they'll always have a soft space in my heart because it's at Style Forum where I learned a lot about historical precedent and how things are put together well. I'm constantly learning, so that's a great source, and it still is. But while I was in Florence, I got a chance to meet other people, including, at that time, the editor-in-chief, still is the editor-in-chief of Plaza Wama, which is Eric Mamby. And he introduced me to the owner of Plaza Uomo. And about a year later, he asked me to be the director of the US edition, which just recently came out. It's fantastic. I'm really proud of it. But it's really weird because I don't see myself as a director. I don't see myself as a style maven. I'm just a dude who likes clothes. Probably more than I should.
Yeah. Well, it might be also because you were Italian roots. What do you think?
Yeah, that was one of the reasons why he asked me to, because I can speak Italian. My family comes from Sicily. I spend time there constantly. I know tailors. In fact, the tailor that I use the most often is now a really, really good friend. He's a fantastic guy, Salvo from I Sarti Italiani. Just a really good, very flexible guy when it comes to styling suits. Because when it comes to Italian suits, for many years, they're generally more, they follow the lines of the body a little closer than Americans do.
Yeah, more sexy.
A little bit, which is kind of how I like to be, but not overly, not as much as has been the style for many decades there. So I kind of make it a little more, in my opinion, a little more comfortable.
Yeah.
And he was willing to do that, extend the shoulders a little bit, add a little bit of drape in the chest. I'm a very huggy guy. I gesture a lot. So to have a jacket that is very comfortable when I move and when I sit down really means a lot to me. And he was able to adapt that to something that's comfortable for me. So because of that, I've stuck with him for 5-6 years now. I've got, oh man, like maybe 10 suits from him.
Wow.
But yeah, that's my journey from when I was a child, basically, a toddler until now.
Yeah, so now that makes sense, of course. So what about the latest issue of Plaza Wama? Would you like to tell us a little bit more about that? And then we're going to proceed with yours.
Yeah, well, the cover is Robert Spangle, whom I'm eternally indebted to, because he helped me a lot with putting the first issue together, with ideas, with photo shoots. It was great doing photo shoots with him in Southern California. Plus, he is just a fantastic guy. He's very Southern California, which you can kind of get a sense of. Mindset of someone who was born and raised in Southern California. I have it, he has it. We definitely connect in that way. And it's very chill. You can have your opinions, but you're also very open to other people's opinions and ideas. And that's very typical for Southern California, San Diego, LA, that whole area near the coast. San Francisco, a little bit too, although they can be a little big-headed when it comes to
decisions.
Having, well, their opinions are typically better than others. Whereas in Southern California, it's generally the opposite. It's like, okay, I have my opinion, but let's hear what you have to say. Maybe it's better, maybe it's not. It's different.
But acceptable.
It's a little more, it's a little more open-minded as far as that goes, which can be good or bad. You know, it's a two-edged sword, just like anything can be. But Robert and I really connected on that.
Yeah.
And his life is really interesting, and he's allowed his life experiences to mold him into the person he is now. He's very multifaceted. He has interest in a wide variety of things. Yeah. And so for me, it seemed natural to have him to do an article and to make him the cover of the magazine. But there's other articles in there that focus, actually, if you look at the magazine, the majority of the articles, in fact, all the articles I wrote are all about California companies. So for example, you have Robert, who's a photographer, who will be coming out with his own line of clothes very soon, just a heads up.
Wow, all right.
You have Jerome Mage of Jacques-Marie Mage, whom I'm a huge fan of. I have way too many frames from him, but he was very gracious when I interviewed him at his place of work in Los Angeles. There's also a hat maker, Cody Walima, and I have a second hat that's ready for me to either pick up or to have it shipped to me. A really stand-up guy. He is unique, but in the best way possible. Everyone likes him, and for good reason. He has he's a fantastic human being. And then you have Tailors Keep from here in San Francisco. Now, Tailors Keep is one of the last places in San Francisco that does bespoke tailoring. There's a number of places here in San Francisco that do made-to-measure tailoring, which is good for most people. Yeah. But for bespoke, there's very few. He's one of the last, if not the last, in San Francisco. And it's Ryan, who is the main fitter and stylist. Yeah. And then you have Jonathan and his staff of 2 or 3, which does all of the tailoring. And between the two, the tailor and the fitter, you have an amazing synergy, for lack of a better word. I hate that word, but it really is, because you have the sum of them together is greater than their parts individually. They're able to create wonderful suits right here in San Francisco, as opposed to farming it out. Not that there's anything wrong with that, but sometimes it's nice to have an option where everything is done here locally. And they made me this wonderful suit for Pity, which is hands down one of my favorite suits. It's a really beefy 500-gram linen. It's insane. It's perfect for San Francisco because summers here are only about 15, 20 degrees max. Okay. It's not very warm. It's sunny, but it's a little windy and a little chilly. But they made it all here in San Francisco, and it's great. The fact that they survived COVID is an amazing story. And I wanted Derek Guy, who writes for Put This On, writes for his own website, Dye Workwear. He's a really good guy. I've been friends with him for a long time. And he's also a client of Tailors Keep and has been for a number of years. So I wanted him to write this story about how they survived. And after he wrote the article was written all the way back in, I think, January or February of this year. Since then, they've been doing phenomenally well. Their business has exploded. I can't be happier for them, because you never want, COVID's been hard for a lot of people, and a lot of businesses closed because of it. So it's nice to see not just someone survive, but someone flourish after COVID. I'm really happy to see that. And they're another one of the articles that are in the inaugural issue of Plaza Uomo. It's a magazine that I'm really proud of being made, but you can download it digitally on the website. In fact, so far it's the most downloaded issue in the history of Plaza Uomo. So I'm really happy about that.
You're a big fan of it, of course. Of course.
And I'm already starting to work on the next issue, which will be released in Pity of January 2022. And that will be focused on New York.
Ooh.
And that's all I'm going to say about that.
Okay. All right. That's a nice teaser. A teaser. We will keep that in mind. So we will see the next in January. So now that you mentioned the tailors, which is something really, really important, especially also for my website, what about the tailors that used to travel abroad for the clients? So I do remember last year, Bill Gates said that 50% of business travel will go away due to travel restrictions and pandemic. What's your take on that? Did you see a difference? Of course, you have seen a difference through the business travel. And what about the tailors' future? Since many Italian tailors, UK tailors, Spanish tailors used to travel abroad or from New York to do their fitting with the clients. What is going to happen in the future? Is it going to be locally based?
I'd like to think, I think for now, everything is restricted to local. And so for those cities that have a local option, that's great, because then those local tailors can be supported. However, the other tailors that do travel for trunk shows, for fittings, to
Exactly.
meet up with clients, they've definitely been affected. I don't know if that's going to improve. I'd like to think it will improve. Maybe they'll inaugurate a sort of accessibility for those who have been vaccinated, or they're able to travel with some restrictions, meaning
Yeah.
they wear a mask just like everyone else does. I don't know. I'd like to think that will start here in the United States. It's really unfortunate because it started everywhere else. So Italy, most of Europe for that matter, London now accepts vaccinated Americans.
France, of course.
Or those who have had a negative test before they fly in.
Yeah.
I think that's great. Every other day or every 3 or 4 days, I'll check to see when that will happen in the United States. Silence. There's not much talk about it. The last anything was said was, it's too soon to say. I would like for that to happen, to have some sort of reciprocity.
Yeah,
But I don't know. I don't make the laws.
Yeah.
Once that happens, though, I think that the tailors will obviously take steps to make sure of not only their safety, but the safety of their clients. I'm sure they'll be masked.
Yeah.
Some have even offered to do it outside. Maybe in a hotel, they'll go to a common area, or they'll go to an area that's open where they can perform fittings. There's a bunch of options that can be done in order to ensure the safety of both the tailor and the clients. When that will be allowed, I honestly can't say. I'd like to think and hope soon, but I don't know.
Yeah, of course. So what about the sustainability of the thing? What do you think about that? Is it just a trend? Do you think that tailors would be relevant than ever now?
Wow, I honestly don't know. I will say regarding the suit, I don't think it's going to go away anytime soon, for several reasons. One, because it looks good on practically everybody.
Yeah.
On men, women, different shapes, different heights. In my mind, there's not another garment that comes close to being universally flattering.
Exactly.
That said, as far as tailors go, I would say over the past 10 years especially, there's been a big push for having something made to your measurements.
Yeah.
I think it will appeal to, the idea of that appeals to everyone, because who doesn't hate wearing something that is ill-fitting?
Yeah.
Everyone hates that. So people will spend hours going to a shop and trying different things on in the fitting room. People will have 2, 3, 4 returns from an online company just so that they can find the perfect fit. So I think the idea of going in, having a fitting, and then having it ready for you appeals to a lot of people.
Exactly.
But there's always the cost barrier. So I think people will utilize different methods depending on their price point. And fortunately, those are becoming more and more available. So you have MTM, which is, it can be done locally, it could be done overseas, it could be done in a bunch of different places.
Yeah. And
the ability for different countries to do that is really high. You have places in China, you have places in Italy, you have places in India that are all staffed by very capable people. I think people will either choose based on their budget, or they'll choose based on whatever they feel more akin to. So if they have a budget that allows them to have something done in England, locally where they live, or a traveling tailor coming over, I think that will be the determining factor, or they'll save up.
Yeah.
So since suits, I don't think will ever go out of style, but the occasions to be very dressed up are diminishing. I think people will still buy suits because you can dress them up or down. You can make them very formal with a tie and a pocket square. You can make them very casual with a t-shirt, and everything in between. So I think they're seeing the flexibility of the suit, and they're seeing the different ways that it can be worn depending on their own personality and the environment that they find themselves in. But they are going to be a little choosier. They're going to say, well, I really can only wear one suit. I'll wear it in a bunch of different ways, but I can really afford just one suit. So I'm going to save up for that. And I'm going to get one that I really like from a tailor that I really connect with, or something that my budget will allow me to do. Those two factors, some people will be restricted by them, other people will not. But I don't think the suit is going away anytime soon. I think people are going to find ways to incorporate the suit into their life, depending on where they are, how they're feeling, either dressed up or dressed down.
Yeah.
I don't see much changing, except for, if anything, I think the occasions to be dressed up are diminishing.
I hope so.
So ever since, and that's been the way for the past 100 years. I mean, people used to go out in tails and a top hat. And then it changed to the lounge suit, and it was a little more casual. And then it changed to sport coats, and then it's a little more casual. And by now, at least in the United States, there are hardly any companies that require a tie or a jacket, except maybe in court. And even then, not always. So I think the occasion to dress up to that extent are diminishing. But the suit, as flexible as it is, can be worn like how you're wearing it, which is fantastic. It can be worn with a t-shirt. It can be worn with a button-down collar. It can be worn a million different ways. So I think that strict sense of finding occasion to wear it are diminishing. People will start wearing it just because they like it, but not because they have to.
Okay. Yeah, no, that makes sense, because also a suit is so flexible for men. It's not like the little black dress for women that we have in our wardrobe. You can do so many things just with a pair of trousers, just with a blazer.
Yeah.
You're so right. So what is, in your opinion, the most common mistake that men do in their style that you see in the streets?
Man, I think the most common is allowing other people to dress them. I think they'll see someone and say, well, he's obviously knowledgeable in what he does, so I'm going to listen to him, instead of doing their own research and finding what suits their personality. I think that's more important. I think it's good to get to know what the rules are. And by that, I mean how classic menswear has been worn for the past 100 years. I think it's good to know that and to be informed by historical precedent. But I don't think it's good to be a slave to it, or to be a slave to fashion. I think it's good to know all of these things and then find something that suits you.
Yeah, exactly. So what is your most valuable item in your wardrobe at the moment? The one you would also suggest to those who are listening to have also in their wardrobe, the most essential that someone has to have in his wardrobe at the moment?
Wow. There's several, I would say, but the most would be a good shirt. And to find one that you could wear in a variety of situations. So I think a good blue shirt, a good white shirt, something you can wear with a tie, something you can wear without a tie. I mean, that's just the basic. It's not exactly the most stylish
No, but it,
Not exactly it doesn't have the most impact, but it is probably the most utilitarian.
yeah.
Personally, it took me a while to find one that I can wear with everything, and that's actually the one that I have on now.
Okay.
It's from 100 Hands, and it's a convertible collar.
Yeah.
So it can be worn, it can be buttoned up and worn with a tie if I
Yeah.
wanted to, or it can be left open. It's a one-piece collar.
Amazing.
So I do wear a tie, and I've worn this with a tie, but I've also worn it casually with a jacket, not a blazer, not a sport coat necessarily.
Yeah.
But many people don't have that need, so they're fine with just a regular Oxford cloth button down. That's a good staple to have.
Yeah.
A lot of people, I think most guys look good in a jacket, except for those that are endowed with a Herculean physique and they look good with just a t-shirt. I think a jacket is a good way to, for me, it's utilitarian. I love having pockets. I hate putting things in my pants pockets. I would much rather put things in a jacket pocket. It just seems to hold things better. You can have 2, 3, 4. So I think a good jacket, whether a sport coat, maybe a navy blazer, or something a little more casual like this seersucker number, I think it's just good to have. You can take it off if it gets too hot.
Yeah.
But I think for utility purposes and just to finish a look, I think it's good to have a jacket that serves all purposes.
Amazing. Okay, so let's go to a little bit more personal questions, if you allow me to, before
Sure.
finishing our conversation. So, in your opinion, what are the principles of a gentleman that all of us are trying to find the answer to? What do you think that a gentleman should have? And when I mean a gentleman, it can be also a rebellious gentleman or a rock and roll gentleman, not the formal one that we have in mind. But what are the basic things that he needs to serve?
I think a good gentleman is modest and recognizes his limitations as far as his influence. So you have the greatest influence on yourself. You're really the only person that you can influence and change. There's other people that allow themselves to be influenced by you, and sometimes that's a good thing. Like there are many great humans, men and women of the past that we can all look to and admire and learn from, and I think that's good. But I think a gentleman will recognize his limitations that he has on other people, and by that I mean find out what looks good for you. Keep other people in mind. Be gracious. Allow people to be who they are. Allow people to dress the way they want. After all, it's just clothes. But I think graciousness and modesty coupled with humility are the best things that a gentleman can have. And that'll be expressed in the way they dress. That'll be expressed in how they interact with people. It's good to have confidence. That's a good thing. But it's also good to always be open to other people's opinions and be learning.
Exactly. Oh my God. Amazing.
Oh, sorry.
Okay.
That's an alarm that I
have the alarm. Okay. Good morning again.
You can delete that from the interview.
No, I'm gonna keep it. We like the spontaneous things. So, all right. So now that you mentioned about the inspiration from the past, what is your inspiration from the previous decades? Is it Cary Grant? Is it Humphrey Bogart? Is it Steve? Who is it?
The biggest, at least the one that I like the best, that I always turn back to, there's two. One, and it makes sense that they were friends at the time, Paul Newman and Robert Redford. So everything that Paul Newman did for me was believable. Meaning he embodied whatever character he was. He was actually, in one of his movies, he was a construction worker. And another one of his movies, he was a pool shark. And another one of his movies, he was in The Sting, and he wore a tuxedo like nobody's business. Um, I've always liked him
Yeah.
in that instance. He wasn't always the best dressed, but he embodied who he was. He was comfortable. And same thing with Robert Redford. Both of those guys have very different styles, for sure. Very different styles. I really dug the 70s era of Robert Redford. It was fantastic. He dabbled into Western. He dabbled into turtlenecks and cafe racers in tan leather with big aviators. I think that was great. They're, like I said, both were very different guys, but they were friends, and they both, it was believable whenever they would put on a costume, which essentially it was an actor.
Yeah.
I believed who they were. And they also dressed for whatever the occasion was. They dressed for the occasions. Like a great movie is 3 Days of the Condor, which a lot of guys know. But if you look at that, the outfits that he wore throughout are outfits that any guy can wear. A gray sport coat, jeans, a pea coat, a chambray shirt, all of those things that are great on practically everybody. They were good then, they're good now. You can tweak it a little bit, you can make it your own, you can pair it with different things, but all of those things are great to have. Paul Newman, one of my favorite movies that he ever did was with Robert Redford, and that's Butch Cassidy and the Sundance Kid. It's both of their personalities in that movie are great, and the clothes they wore, even though I would never wear any of that now at all.
Yeah.
maybe
Say never. Never say
never. I have worn a vest. I have had a mustache. I do have a hat.
Where's your mustache now that you mentioned it? You had your mustache.
Oh, you know what? A gentleman knows when to listen to his wife.
Okay.
And it was not, my wife was not too keen on it, which is fine. I don't mind.
Yeah. Well, it was just for a change. All right.
It's just for a change, exactly.
Yeah, not to be bored. Okay, so what about your lifestyle? What other do you do apart from working in the construction and also in Plaza Wama? What else do you do with your wife? What do you like doing? Are you do you work out? Do you eat healthy?
I do. Yeah, 6 days a week, 7 days a week. Oh, wow. I always include stretching. Particularly in my line of work, if I don't work out, I'll be hurting. And I don't work out a lot. I work out just a half hour, and it's not with heavy weights. You know, I'm not looking to get big. I'm just looking to be flexible and to be fit enough to continue doing the work that I do without hurting myself. Yeah. So I do that particularly because if I don't, I'll be in very bad shape. I like to go hiking. I love going hiking. Growing up in Southern California, my parents always took us camping, which I still love to do. One of my favorite things to do is to get on my motorbike, which is another pastime that I have. I'll put everything in a saddlebag and just go off 2, 3, 4 hours, find a place to camp. Yeah. And camp there, just kind of immerse myself in nature and creation. It's nice to, as much as I love living in the city, I live right in San Francisco. I work in San Francisco. I love the city. It gives me energy. Yeah. But it's nice to escape that, to go to a quiet place, unplug, turn off my cell phone, and just listen to the waves crash against the shore, or listen to the birds or wind rustle through the pine needles. There's nothing like it.
The most amazing soundtrack of all times.
Yeah, I agree.
Okay, so what is your favorite drink?
Man, I don't drink terribly much anymore. But when I do, it's usually, if it's a cocktail, it's a Negroni. So funny story, I've been married for 21, almost 22 years. On our honeymoons, this is back in 1999. Yeah. Our honeymoon, we went to Italy. It was my first time in Italy.
Okay, whereabouts did you go?
Cinque Terre.
Cinque Terre, of course.
So
Right.
beautiful on the Ligurian coast,
The colorful.
or is it the Tuscan coast? No, I think it's the Ligurian coast. Beautiful little towns that are only walkable or accessible by train. There's a path called the Via dell'Amore that connects them all. So we went there on our honeymoon. And in one of those towns, I want to say it was Monterosso al Mare, which is, I believe, the northernmost. And it has a center street that dives into the ocean. If you were to look at it from the ocean and look up, it almost looks like a funnel where there's houses that are dotting the hillside as it goes up. Beautiful, picturesque town. And it was in that town where we asked the bartender, what is an Italian drink? A cocktail. And he said, the only thing we have is the Negroni.
Negroni, of course.
And I said, sure, make us one of those. And I think he made us 3. And that began my love affair with the Negroni. So for the past 20 years, generally speaking, if I get a cocktail, it's a Negroni. Otherwise, with meals, a little bit of wine.
Okay. But do you know how to make a Negroni yourself?
Oh yeah, super easy. So it's 3 parts gin, sweet vermouth, and Campari, and then a splash of club soda. It really depends on what sweet vermouth and the ingredients. They can't just be any old ones, but you'll find the one that you like the best. Yeah. That's the beauty of it. It's a simple drink, but there's a lot of nuances that you can have fun with.
I agree. Okay. Have you have a book that you recently read and you are really interested in and you want to propose to some people?
The most recent, I'm reading a book now. Yeah. Which Alessio from Brunello Cucinelli gave to me, and it is about Brunello Cucinelli's philosophy, which is super interesting. Oh, wow. It's been said that he is the philosopher of the fashion industry, and it's not unmerited because he really gives a lot of thought into people, into the environment, obviously in the way clothes are designed, but I think what makes him stand out is the fact that he really tries to gain an equilibrium between work and life.
And personal life, yeah.
Yeah, and it's a fascinating read. That's what I'm currently reading.
Amazing. We should read it too then. And what is a good investment for you, Peter?
Wow, a good investment? Personal relationships. You can never spend too much time developing and refining personal relationships. As long as I've been with my wife, there are still things that I learn about her. And the more you solidify those relationships, the stronger it will be. So if you think of any kind of garment, like a jacket or a t-shirt, they're all held together by stitches. But as you wash it and clean it, just with the passage of time, it will eventually start to break down. If you like that shirt, if it has any value to you, you will continue to redo those stitches to make it stronger. And for me, you cannot say, oh, we've drifted apart. Yeah. You have to keep those garments strong, whether it be friends, whether it be family members. If those people have value to you, then they require maintenance.
Amazing. Yeah. Keep the sparkle alive. Amazing.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. So what is, in your opinion, the put on must-have accessory that men should have? Because I don't know if you are into men's jewelry or accessories, but if it's one that you could recommend, what is that?
I would say if it's one, then I would say a good set of frames, whether they be optical frames or sunglasses. Find one that really suits your personality and go with it. I didn't really get into frames until I started needing them to see. But once I did, man, I just went down the rabbit hole, and there's a ton of different frames that you could choose that suit your personality, suit the style that you're wearing at the time. I would say watches,
Okay.
but that is a very expensive accessory. It's good to have one.
Yeah.
I recently bought my first one not even a year ago. Would you believe it?
Really? You didn't wear one?
And no, I didn't wear one because I never found one that fit properly. So because I never found one that fit properly, I just gave up on them. I still have ones that my father gave me, which I will never give away or never get rid of. But I don't wear it because it doesn't fit well. It bugs me.
Yeah.
So I just wrote off all watches. A watch is a fantastic thing to have, especially if you are working in construction. If you want to know what time it is, you have to constantly pull your phone out, and it's probably not a good idea if you're on a ladder or if you're in the middle of sawing something. So it's good just to look down. It's good just to look down to see what time it is. But yeah, short of a good watch,
okay,
I would say a good set of
one
frames.
did you buy? Can you share with us which one did you buy?
Yeah, I bought a Tudor Black Bay 58, so it's a little smaller, and it suits as my first watch, one that I would be wearing at work constantly.
Yeah,
it suits my lifestyle because you can bang it up. It'll only look better with time. It's a stainless steel watch. I wanted something that I could go in the ocean or in the mare if I was in Italy and not have to worry about it.
yeah.
So it's a good watch. It keeps fantastic time. It's self-winding. It's a great all-arounder. Eventually, I got another watch, which was my birth year watch.
Oh, okay.
And that's a little dressier. It's an Omega DeVille. Very dressy. I was born in 1975, so it kind of has a little bit of a 70s vibe to it, which
that's nice.
Which kind of suits me, at least for now.
Yeah.
But still very dressy. You would never know it was even there. It's very small.
Okay.
But yeah, a good watch is invaluable. It's good to have, and a good pair of frames.
Amazing. Okay, 2 questions to go. So
sure.
One more. Are you a motorbike lover or a car lover? And if so, do you prefer the high-tech models, the modern models, or the vintage ones?
Motorbike, hands down. There is nothing like being in the open air. And I've driven convertibles.
Yeah.
There is nothing like being on a motorbike and being completely 360 degrees, practically, surrounded by the open air. I'll give you a great example.
Yeah.
From San Francisco to LA, over the past year, I've seen Robert 3 times. I've driven on the 5. It's an interstate highway that runs the length of the United States from California all the way up into Canada.
Yes. And
down into Mexico. It's a super long, very boring interstate highway. However, on a motorbike, no problem. If I'm in a car, it's the longest drive ever. It's 7 hours of torture.
Oh my
on a motorbike, no problem at all. It goes like that. It's super fun. Zip around traffic. I love my motorbike. Right now, I have a Triumph Scrambler, so I've taken it off-road a little bit, so it's great for camping. I used to have a Thruxton, which is their cafe racer. Great bike.
Yeah.
But the Scrambler suited my personality and what I wanted to do a little bit more. Fantastic bike. Motorbike, hands down.
All right. All right. So you are a rockstar gentleman, that's for sure now, I can tell. So what is the most rebellious thing you have ever done? Your revolution, maybe since you were a kid or the last years, I don't know, the most fascinating thing you have ever done?
You know, I would say the biggest thing was I used to think I was never the kind of guy that would wear a black leather jacket. Never, never. Brown leather jacket, no problem. So the first leather jacket I ever bought, actually I didn't buy it. I got it in New York in the Hopper in Patterson. It was an old G1 from Schott. So it's kind of a, the G1 is kind of a pilot's leather jacket, kind of a Top Gun kind of a jacket. Yeah, black leather jacket, never. However, I got my first black leather jacket, I want to say maybe 2 or 3 years ago.
Okay.
And it just opened up a new possibility. I never thought of myself as someone that would wear a black leather jacket. But since then, I think I've bought, I don't know, 3, 4, 5, too many for any one man to own. But a black leather jacket and black pair of pants, black boots.
Yeah.
It's great.
To Mick Jagger.
I don't know. I'm not that kind of a guy.
Yeah.
He's got something that not many men have. Definitely not me. But yeah, I think a black pair of pants, black boots, black jacket. You don't have to necessarily wear them all at the same time, but it's good to have. For me, that was a big revolution not too long ago, maybe 5 or 6 years ago.
Oh, nice. Okay. So I lied. I have one more question, but this is the last one. I promise.
Sure.
So if you could give a piece of advice to the 10-year-old Peter, what would it be? How would you advise the young kid back then for today's future, today's present, actually?
Wow, what would I tell myself?
To be careful of.
I would tell myself to be an electrician earlier. I started way too late. It would be to learn a trade. So something that a tailor told me when I was in Italy is fai un'arte e mettila da parte. And that means get a trade, find something that you can always fall back on, just in case.
Wow.
And then get good at it. If you want to do something else, if you want to follow your dreams, go for it. But you can always fall back on your trade. And I wish I would have done that earlier. I started as an electrician when I was 35.
Okay.
And I wish I would have done that earlier, because being an electrician allowed me to do that and then try other things.
Yeah.
If you want to follow your dreams, I think that's great, but it's always good to do that after you have really got something that you can utilize in case things go south. And that's what I have as an electrician. I would tell myself to get a trade as quickly as possible after school.
That's a great advice, and that's a great closure as well. So, Peter, it was a pleasure having you here on the Lifestyle.
Likewise.
Thank you so much for your time. Hope to see you soon in PT.
Yes, I hope so.
Yeah, and maybe if you have any events with Plaza Uomo, I will see you there.
Okay, I will let you know.
And next time in Greece, I will let you know about the best location you should go there.
Yes, definitely. Give me a list of places to go.
We can maybe go together, have some ouzo, and have some nice time there.
Would love that. Would love that.
So cheers. Have a lovely time.
Okay.
Vacations. Speak to you soon.
Thank you, Androniki.
Thank you
See you
so
soon.
much. Thank you. Bye-bye.